I'm telling you right now, there's no way you'll make it through this video without flooding your house with tears. The scene you're about to see is breathtaking. You'll want to jump into the anime and punch these guys in the face. Episode 1107 starts with baby Kuma crying his heart out and Bonnie saying, "Dad?" She was about to ask what was happening. Was he a man or a sack of potatoes? But then a bunch of goons show up with a giant stick, telling him to stop running away. The kid was nearly having a meltdown, saying he didn't want to go with them, but they started to drag the kid away, saying if he escaped, it would be their heads on the line. Bonnie was furious, screaming for them to let Kuma go, but she was just running in place, unable to get closer. Later she says, "Oh, I know my father's ability," but she doesn't realize that trying to punch these guys within the memories won't change anything. The guy was almost breaking the kid's arm as he resisted, sending the men flying. He begged them to rip his guts out right there because going with them would be even worse. And what could be so bad that the kid would rather die right there? I don't know. But those bastards didn't care and started beating Kuma with baseball bats until he gave up. Bonnie couldn't stop crying, unable to do anything. Little Kuma kept screaming in pain, begging them to stop because it hurt too much, apologizing to what looked like celestial dragon. He kept shouting in agony, asking someone to save him, for the love of God. And Bonnie got thrown out of the memory bubble right at the beginning of the memory. And that's exactly what happened to Zoro. Remember when he nearly turned to dust just from taking a small piece of Luffy's pain? Well, there was still all that left because that was just the beginning. Bonnie fell to the ground trembling and gasping for air just from seeing the start of the nightmare, and Vegapunk had warned her to stay away. Meanwhile, over at Red Port, the real Kuma was still trying to climb the mountain while the Marines tried to bring him down at all costs. They were shouting to stop him from reaching Mariehua because that would ruin the Marines' reputation. Bonnie knew she would need a lot of courage to face her father Kuma's past, but she had to do it no matter what. Back at the lab, Pythagoras was marching around looking all serious, asking if the old man was around. He could only notice the mess that place was in. All the seraphims were created there, but none of them had any mercy when it came to destroying everything. And for those of you thinking that ChatGPT can't turn against you if you don't say please and thank you, Pythagoras heard a noise and thought it was Stella, but it was just his imagination, or was it? The sound of boots kept coming closer, and the kid looked back, really thinking it was the old man, but someone jumped on him and caused an explosion. Shaka heard everything and asked Pythagoras what was happening, but of course, there was no answer. Nami also started shouting over the radio, asking if everything was alright and if Vegapunk had returned, but Luffy said the old man hadn't come back yet, and Nami was more worried about Zoro, telling him not to leave the spot because they didn't have time to search for another lost person. Out of nowhere, the communication was cut off, and no one could talk anymore. On this island, things are so advanced that even the Den mushy snails are smart, so Shaka ordered the snail to move and look for Pythagoras. It could only see the explosion, but a sinister shadow appeared. Shaka was hoping nothing had happened to Tin Head. He had seen something pass by and asked the snail to look down, but a shadow appeared and simply blew everything up just by touching the camera, so they lost the images because the camera snail turned into a kebab. Luffy started calling everyone on the radio, but no one responded, and Zoro said he was so clueless that he even managed to break their radio. Straw Hat Luffy started walking, saying he would go check on Shaka. He told Zoro not to move and got cursed out for free. The shadowy figure was blowing up any camera in its way. This guy was a big deal, not caring about being caught on camera. Nami was shouting for Vegapunk to show up, but it seemed impossible to find the old man. Edison said the place was so big that if they played hide and seek there, the game would last forever. Then Nami started smiling with a twinkle in her eye, saying she finally found something. Edison asked where she saw the old man, but old man, nothing. She was in love with all the jewels there. The kid told her to stop being crazy, but Brooke said it didn't matter since they were leaving anyway, so she grabbed all the diamonds and said it was too heavy, asking if she could come back later. The boy was nearly having a stroke, saying they needed to find the old man, not to mention her bag was so full she couldn't keep searching like that, and Nami went, "Good point, you carry them then." The kid nearly blue-screened at that, so she had no choice but to say she'd leave them there and come back for them later. Edison said, just so she knew, those were all artificial diamonds, and she made a face like, "What, you can make diamonds?" It was a dream come true for her, and the kid just wanted the old man to show up so he could get away from this crazy lady. The mysterious figure kept blowing things up and appearing bit by bit. Chopper and Robin were fascinated by all the technology in that place. The raccoon asked how Atlas's face was still intact if Lucci had blown her up so thoroughly, and she said she could change her face as much as she wanted with all that technology. Robin was fascinated by some organisms lying around, and Chopper was enchanted by the view. He was thrilled they could create organs to help in medicine, and Robin said it was a relief because she thought those were pieces of Vegapunk that had been diced up. Chopper said she was very strained. The Supreme Simp was like a gazelle, moved by love, while Jinbei was the only real man there, shouting for Vegapunk to appear. Sanji said he never imagined in his wildest dreams that he would take a ship ride with Stussy, and asked if she wasn't at Big Mom's party. Stussy Stussy said he was very attentive, and he said, "Of course, how could I not notice such a beautiful woman?" He said from that day on, he became her servant and begged her to call him her little puppy. And there are still crazy people who think this weirdo is better than Zorro. Stussy starts laughing, telling him to wake up and find Stella. The kid stands there, posing like a dog, following her and barking. Never will he be Roronoa Zorro. Jean Bay said that the lab was so big it would take forever to search every corner. Stussy tells them to be careful not to cause any unnecessary explosions, especially the dog with his tail on fire. And speaking of explosions, another one happens, revealing the true monster breaking everything. It's none other than S-Snake. Minnie Hancock got tired of life and started blowing everything up just for the fun of it. Shaka was desperate in the control room because he couldn't reach anyone. Luffy shows up, saying his radio was broken too, but he swears he didn't break it. "I wouldn't pay for something like this that's more expensive than my kidneys." He thought Shaka didn't believe him, but Shaka couldn't care less. He was worried about the cameras that kept shutting off, as if someone was turning them off one by one, so he says there must be an intruder in the lab. Frankie and Usopp were also searching for the old man like crazy. Even York woke up from her 10th nap to look for Applehead. Neriba says if they take too long, the government will catch up with them all. He asks what they will do, and Lilith says to use that little toy over there, a bubble gun. And it's been more than 5 episodes since she's been trying to use the thing but hasn't succeeded at all. Frankie says he can't even imagine a water gun causing any damage, so Lilith asks if he wants to test it, and the guy almost has a heart attack. York calls the 3 Stooges to check out the mess happening in front. It was right where the huge explosion had happened, and lying on the ground was, of course, Pythagoras. Usopp was going crazy because the kid was headless. Lilith tells him to wake up, and then they hear someone else coming toward them, but it was just Pythagoras again, this time in head mode, walking around with the little legs and arms he created. Pythagoras was scared to death because he almost got his head blown off, and Lilith was already telling him to spill everything that happened. Then the thing that attacked Pythagoras appears, and York smiled. Tin Head wondered what happened. He didn't know if it was a mistake, but Lilith lost patience and told him to speak up already. He asks where York is, and when he looks, she was there petting S-Snake. He said, "Wait, didn't Edison just tell her to wait outside a moment ago?" Then when Lilith asked what the heck she was doing, York says she found the cute Minnie Hancock wandering around, and that cute thing used a love beam and turned York to stone out of nowhere. Still have doubts that ChatGPT might turn against you in the future? Stay sharp, my friend, and the episode ends. In the spoilers for episode 1107, the Seraphim will start attacking the Straw Hats out of nowhere. They even ignore the orders of the Vegapunk satellites, and everyone wonders who is controlling them. While all the satellites become suspects, the Seraphim manage to corner the gang and turn the tables. The title of the next episode is Incomprehensible, the Seraphim Rebellion. And man, that was the recap of episode 1107 of One Piece. Strange, isn't it? Because for the Seraphim to go out of control like that, it would need a higher authority like a Gorosei. But we know Saint Saturn is still out at sea with Kizaru, so this can only be the work of a Vegapunk. And don't you feel like jumping into the anime just to beat up those thugs who were pounding on Baby Kuma? If I got in there, it would be a smack in the face for each one of them. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so we can hit 1 million subscribers by the end of the year. Only 964,500 to go, I believe. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I'm signing off now. Thanks and see you later.